is just to give the board an update of the finance system that we talked about previously, that pentimation system is no longer going to be supported by Nassau BOCES. So we've been looking for a new software system. This software system that we've been looking at is referred to as Finance Manager. It's a system that is used across maybe 400 plus school districts in New York State. It is specifically designed for public school districts, and more importantly, the vendor that maintains the software is located locally up in Sayville. The software is actually managed and hosted by BOCES, so we would be looking to continue hosting through Nassau BOCES as we currently do with pentimation software. This is going to be a complete revamping of the financial system, the entire accounting system, purchasing system, the attendance system, the human resource system. It's going to be a tremendous undertaking. Those of you that have been involved with transition of new software, one of the key components is to ensure the integrity of the data as you go through the transition process, and to make sure that you come out with the appropriate products at the end game. One of the challenges for us is also going to be maintaining our history data. With the conversion to the new software, we will be able to convert some of our history from pentimation, but only in summary format. We are not going to be able to maintain the financial data in detailed format. So having said that, we will be looking to work very closely with Nassau BOCES to develop some type of system, possibly stay on a watered-down version of pentimation, if for nothing other, to access our detail until BOCES comes up with a better system. We have to maintain our detail for specific reasons. The district has requested to prepare reports for Teachers Retirement System and other agencies. We are required to provide detail going back for many, many years. So that's something that's going to have to be very carefully coordinated and crafted. The timeline for this, just to give the board a framework, we have already met, some of the staff has already sat through some demonstrations and early trainings of the software. I myself have spent some time with the software. We would like to take a resolution to the board in January approving this project. And from there, once it's approved, we will be working very closely with BOCES people, and finance manager people, to begin transitioning the data components and the framework over the new software system. And that'll probably take place through the months of February through June. And in the beginning of June, we anticipate running parallel, and running the two systems parallel for a while, making sure, confirming and checking the integrity of the data. And then more importantly, July 1st, we'd be able to go live on the new system. This is not only going to entail the work that's going to be happening in the business office and throughout the district, but we're also going to be, in June, embarking on training for staff out in the buildings. Buildings are going to have to learn how to use new attendance systems. They're going to have to learn how to use the new financial system, the purchasing system. I'm happy to say that there's a lot more bells and whistles with this software. The budget development approach, I think we can finally get many of the reports that we've struggled with for years now. I was very happy about that. The whole time. We were able to, I'll tell them this, as soon as I saw this, I was thinking. So basically, I mean, it is a very comprehensive system. And one of the other challenges that we will be undertaking is we will be restructuring the budget code structure. And I think I may have mentioned this to the board. The way our current budget codes are structured, and the way we're used to seeing them, and our budget document is not consistent with the New York system, with the New York State system of accounts. So we're going to be changing the account code format a little bit. It's not going to be that drastic. It's basically what's going to happen. Those codes that are not compliant with New York State, and they're basically your discipline codes, where you have your social studies, math, and science, and the first 4 digits in that budget code, the function numbers, will become the program numbers on the end. So our budget codes may be getting a little bit longer, okay, but it will be compliant with New York State. Right now, we go through a real, lack of a better term, cockamamie process, where we have a cross-staff table that has to convert all our codes to the state formatting reporting requirements. So that's something else that's going to be a huge undertaking in that conversion. And rightly so. I mean, when we begin to give reports to the board and to the end users, they're going to see a difference in the account code structures as well.
It doesn't convert data from pentimation to you just can't copy over.
You just can't copy over. Okay.
Do we have a approximate cost to the system, John, the new software system?
You're jumping ahead, John.
I'm sorry, I always do that.
Cost of the system. I'm glad everyone is sitting down.
I know what the software costs.
Okay. The finance software package is basically, there's 2 parts to it. There's a one-time fee to purchase a license and to assist with the transition and the training and the BOCES coordination fee. The one-time charge is $102,000. Subsequent to that, you're going to have the annual maintenance and the license renewal fees on the software, which is about $60,600.
Annual?
Annually, $60,000. And that's not really bad. Currently, with pentimation, we're probably around $58,000 for annual maintenance on pentimation system.
Now, that 102, how much is that? Unlimited users, or is it what we pay per license per user, or?
That's the total package for the license, unlimited.
Unlimited license.
Correct.
Do we have the hardware to support the new system?
We are looking to run it on the Nassau BOCES platform, similar to where we have our data now.
So it's remote,
So,
it's stored remote?
Yes, it's going to be outside, it's going to be stored on BOCES servers, and we're going to be accessing the servers as we do now, as we access pentimation.
Imagine the question, is it dateable?
Yes, this is dateable, and it's going to be dateable at our BOCES 8 ratio, which I'm going to say is approximately 56%. Okay?
Is that also the license annually? We get it on that as well?
Correct. Correct. What I would like to suggest to the board is that we move forward in January when we have the resolution. We'll look to fund $102,000 from the current 14-15 budget year. And going forward in 15-16, we'll be putting the basic maintenance cost for the new software in 15-16 going forward. So the impact is not going to be all in 1 year. We'll look to spread it over the 2 years, which budgetarily will benefit the district as well.
We have to do something because the current software isn't being supported.
We have absolutely no choice.
When we lose this support?
July 1st,
This year?
2015.
Section about the personnel fees, which is something that we're storing our personnel data. The state's now requiring, instead of submitting it manually as we had in the past, they're requiring electronic submission. And Rosemary Camilleri's office is working with Mr. Belmonte's office. So it's not just now our financial platform, it's also our platform for all of our personnel. And the state has set up some very demanding guidelines for how they want that data. So
it's a very comprehensive, integrated system. And the best thing about this software is that it's a New York-based company. They know New York requirements, and they're on top of it. And it's going to be integrated with, as we said earlier, the personnel piece, the attendance piece, all other support functions, fixed assets, things of that nature. So, fun project.
No, the project may be fun, it's the course it's not. There seems to be awfully, any other software manufacturer out there, something similar, less costly.
There's other software packages out there, John, but I looked at them and I am familiar with them. I would not recommend them. They do not do what this system does. And going forward, this is probably the best application.
And there's no possible way to push it into 15, 16, July 15, 14, 15, so next year.
Push what, the versions?
July.
Gotta get it going.
No, we have to be up and running by July 1st, which means that we have to start working on this now. Believe me, I'm not happy about it, but as soon as we get done transitioning the health insurance over to the new health plan, we'll start on the finance system, and we'll start transitioning that. Simultaneously, we'll be working on 15, 16 budget.
And wrapping up.
And wrapping up the bond issue.
And the audit.
And the auditors. I could only wish we would be able to push it off.
It's never a good time.
So that's my report on finance. Got quiet, everybody.
Still up there, John, you have the waiver to exempt.
Okay, waiver to
Capital
exempt capital bonds. This is something I'm going to start with the attachment. That was
Disbursement
the
interest.
first one. The board may recall that over the last 2 budget years, we talked about a provision where the state, there's a provision in state law that the state adjusts the statewide interest rate every 10 years. And what that means is all districts that have bonds outstanding, what the state does is they go back and from over a 10-year period, they look at all the bonds that were sold by all the school districts, they come up with an average interest rate, and they say by law, the interest rate has to be changed. When that first came out 2 years ago during the budget process, there was a lot of backlash from various districts that it was going to impact them by the state adjusting their interest rates, thus decreasing their building aid. So as such, there was special legislation that was passed that postponed that. And the same thing happened again last year in the 14-15 school year. The legislation that changed the statewide interest rate on projects going prospectively and retro was postponed. However, that is expected to expire, and effective with the 15-16 school year, that the state is expected to adjust interest rates. So what you have in front of you is a chart that's put out by the State Education Department, and they publish this for all public school districts. This is specifically Sayville's data on the rates that the state anticipates adjusting. And if you go down to about halfway through the page, you'll see the current interest rates that we are receiving building aid on these projects. And you can see it ranges from just under 3.9%, 4.5%, 4.5%, 4.5%. So for the most part, when we financed our bonds, we were being aided by the state on about a 4.5% interest rate. Because at the time we sold the bonds, that was the statewide interest rate. Moving over a few columns, you can see the adjusted rate is 2.25. Okay? So if we were to let this run, comes July 1st, the 15-16 age year, if you go over to the far column on the right, the far column on the right shows the estimated building aid that would be taken back from the district if the state was allowed to adjust our interest rates on these bonds. However, that's the history, that's the background. The good news is that there is a provision in the law to apply for a waiver, okay? And if you look at the top, everything but the last two bond issues, we are eligible to file that waiver. And last week, we had Dr. Shaw to sign the waiver. I worked with fiscal advisors. We filled out all the appropriate forms. And we filed a waiver with New York State to be exempt from making this adjustment to our building aid. And the total adjustment would have been $78,400. Less building aid. They would have taken away from our 1516 aid. So by filing that waiver, we're hopeful, well, if it's approved, we're hopeful to maintain that building aid.
What makes us eligible for
It makes it eligible because these particular issues that run on the top, the majority on the top, we've refinanced that debt. The last two, the bonds are callable on June 15th. And we're also now in the process, it brings us to the second part of this, of looking to refinance those last two pieces on the bottom of this. I've already started the process with bond counsel and fiscal advisors to refinance this debt. And the outcome of that is going to be, when that's done prior to June 30th, we're going to be able to file another waiver prior to June 30th that would hopefully exempt those last two pieces, the $949 and the $665. So overall, by the time we get done with this process, we would hopefully have maintained and saved about $78,410 in state aid building aid. So it's more of an informational item for the board. I know there's a lot of complex financial things here, but one of the other things that we provided to the board is under the refinancing district debt piece. If we were to refinance those two pieces in addition to saving $8,000 in building aid, if you just go right to the bottom, this is the actual amortization schedule and refinancing chart. We're also able to save about $73,000, just under $73,000 in interest cost going forward over the remaining 15 years of this debt. So combined with the refinancing and the waivers, we're saving well over $140,000.
That's over the time period, though.
Over time period, yes. Okay. It's good news.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of money, but it's a step in the right direction.
$17,000 a year.
Step in the right direction. Does the board have any questions on this?
No?
Okay, fantastic. We just knock off those two pieces.
You want to go over the 1.92 million EV show?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
The numbers change.
As the board had requested, administration has gone back. We spent a lot of time reviewing the bond proposal that we originally started out with the bond committee. We looked at the whole package that we presented and that was presented to the bond committee. And we came back with administrative recommendations. I'll go through this rather quickly because I know that we have spent time in the past with the architects and engineers going through each item. We thought the easiest way to look at it was basically in a similar format that we're used to looking at it, and you'll notice that on the right column, we have the administrative recommendations. So going down on the front page, you'll see that we have the totals for each of the buildings. We broke it down by buildings. We are recommending, we came up with a total of just under $19.2 million. Moving forward and going through the particular details for the board. Let me just see if I can get this. Okay, starting with the high school, and in these pages, you'll notice that the middle column, we left the priorities. Priorities is the same as they were in the book that we presented to the board, and that was presented through bond committee. So in starting with the high school, we're looking to replace the 3 boilers and burners. We agree with that. Auditorium air conditioning, we concur with that going forward. We put the cafeteria air conditioning on hold. We put the spline ceilings projects on hold throughout the district. And we have, when we get to the budget later on, a couple of months down the road, you'll see what we're doing with spline ceilings. It's making the small provisions and special projects and trying to address that over a much longer period of time. Keeping with the theme that we're looking for health and safety type items and energy efficient type items to achieve energy savings. Library Media Center and the alterations that we talked about at the high school. So the librarian should be very happy with that. And I think Mr. Hopper, many years we've been discussing that as well.
Just a question on that, John. Would any part of that be entitled to the smart bond money?
No, because most of this cost is renovation cost.
But any technology updates that may be incorporated into this, would that be part of the smart bond?
Yes, the actual technology pieces, the wiring, the backbone, yes.
We pull that out?
That's not really in here. What's in here, if you read through this, is the renovation for the library. It's the spaces, it's the new shelving, it's the furniture, it's the meeting spaces, it's the 20-ton air conditioning unit. So it's the details. So this is really your building infrastructure. The technology will come
Later.
in the smart bond. Okay. Interior door card readers, we pulled that out of here for now because that might be another item that we may be able to address through the smart bond. Upgrade security alarm systems. Again, these are the lack of a better term, burglar alarms, if you will, in the building. The turf field at the high school, we are not recommending at this point. The resurface of the tennis courts, we're not recommending at this point. We are recommending going forward with the bus loop in the front of the building. And we are recommending going through with the parking lot repaving and storm pool refurbishment. That we consider a health and safety issue that really should be addressed. Upgrade the fire alarm system, again, a health and safety issue. Emergency lighting system, health and safety issue. Nurse's office alteration, including to make them ADA accessible. The chemistry lab alterations, we're going to recommend putting this on hold. We're going to recommend going with the kitchen upgrade. This is dishwasher equipment. And again, this is a health and safety sanitary issue. Classroom ventilator replacement system. We talked about that briefly with the board. We're pulling that out across the board, but we will be recommending to the board when we get to the budget to do this district-wide over a 5-year plan and commit $800,000 a year for capital line. What that will help us with is the 2% cap formula going forward, and I think it's a way to kind of spread some of this out and do it in a very effective, efficient manner. Gymnasium folding door partitions, we're recommending to leave that in. Baseball field restoration, we're recommending to put a hold on that. Softball field, we're recommending girls varsity and junior varsity softball fields. We're recommending to go forward with that. And also to go forward with the walkway and visitor grandstands at the high school. And that concludes the items that we looked at the senior high school. It's a total of about $4.3 million in recommended renovations. Moving on to the middle school, we are recommending, again, this is top priority for us, replacing the middle school roof and the skylights that go along with it. And the skylight, all of the barrel vault skylight replacement, which is in the commons area. Also, the pool structural concerns that we've addressed with the board, and the mechanical ventilation system in the pool area. That again is a significant safety, health and safety issue as well. Standby generator at the middle school, we recommend putting a hold on that for now. We're also holding off on the middle school library media recommendations, but that doesn't mean through the technology bond that we may not be, that we will be adding things to the middle school library. Upgrade the kitchen equipment, replace the kitchen ceiling, expand and consolidate the intrusion alarm system, similar to the high school. Replace burners at the middle school, not the boilers, just the burners. And paving and storm pool refurbishment, this is going to be a common thread that we're going to be recommending throughout all our buildings as a health and safety issue. Again, on page 7, the spline ceilings, we're recommending putting a hold on that. And you'll notice on the next item, we crossed out cafeteria ceiling system because we already did the ceiling system in the cafeteria. We're recommending that that we substitute that with the upper ceiling in the auditorium, which needs to be done. Right, so that's something that we're recommending
It's not in
on
there.
hold. At least it's on the radar screen. Upgrade emergency lighting, we're recommending going forward with that. And again, expanding and upgrading the fire alarm systems, recommending going with that. We
Just one
recommend
question. The fire alarm systems, that can be incorporated in the technology.
the fire alarm systems. I mean, Tom, not that I'm aware of at this point. It doesn't mean that it's not possible, but at this particular point, we're trying to address issues where we're looking to bring the buildings up to the appropriate codes. Planetarium upgrades put on hold at this point, along with the music suite addition. Continuing with the middle school on page 8, the orchestra room air conditioning, we'll put that on hold. Guidance suite heat distribution, we're recommending going forward with that. That's always been an issue, the way those rooms have been configured. Again, classroom unit ventilator replacement, we talked about doing that on a district-wide basis through capital projects. Gym folding door replacement, go forward with that. Gym bleacher replacement, that's a big item in the middle school health and safety item to go forward as well. Auditorium lighting and sound system, we're recommending to upgrade that at the middle school. So the middle school renovations that we have currently is about $5.6 million. Moving on to Lincoln Avenue. Lincoln Avenue, again, the boiler and burner replacement. We're recommending go forward with that, as well as the ventilation that goes with that boiler room. Cafeteria air conditioning, we're recommending going forward with that, just to be compatible with all of the other buildings throughout the district. Additional parking at Lincoln Avenue, we've talked about that. We are in desperate need of additional parking areas at that facility. Upgrade the kitchen equipment, that again is a health and safety issue, and expand and consolidate the intrusion alarm system, and the interior door card readers at Lincoln, again, put that on hold. Moving to page 10 at Lincoln Avenue, the paving and storm pool refurbishment, recommend going forward with that. Again, putting the spline ceilings on hold and addressing that district-wide. Replace the sink cabinets, put that on hold. Our plan with this is to address some of them through the budget and through the buildings and grounds budget on an annual basis. Replace the kindergarten classroom and corridor doors. We agreed to go forward with that, including the public address system. And we have the domestic hot water heater and the renovations to the nurse's office. We're also recommending to go forward. Continuing Lincoln Avenue, page 11, basement ventilation, go forward with that. Corridor exhaust fans, health and safety issue, go forward with that. Kitchen ventilation, upgrade emergency lighting, upgrade fire alarm systems, upgrade the playground to the extent of the new structure in the amount of approximately $30,000. And again, classroom ventilation replacement, put that on hold and do that on a district-wide project. So Lincoln Avenue, we have a total of about $2.3 million renovations. Moving on to Cherry Avenue, again, the boiler and burner replacement, $700,000. You realize that the board just recently declared an emergency. That particular project, just for the immediate replacement of the boilers and burners themselves, were about $200,000. There's around $700,000 of work remaining in the boiler room area, and that would be replacing of condensers, pipes, removal of asbestos, and things of that nature. And we do have a complete breakdown for the board of the other things that will be done, and we can send that to the board at a later date. Cafeteria air conditioning, again, recommending to go forward. This would make it consistent with the other elementary schools. Asphalt paving and storm pool refurbishment, again, to us, that's a health and safety issue throughout the district. Card readers and hardware, put that on hold. Spline ceilings, put that on hold through the bond. Upgrade kitchen equipment, we recommend going forward with that, and expand and consolidate the intruder alarm system. We recommend going forward. Continuing with Cherry Avenue on page 13, upgrade the emergency lighting, we recommend going forward. Upgrading the fire alarm system, and again, providing a playground. At Cherry Avenue, we have a total of just under $1.4 million in recommended upgrades. Moving on to Sunrise Drive, replace the burners with dual fire equipment. Again, these are the burners, these are not the boilers. The boilers were changed at an earlier time. Upgrade the electrical service. This is a very important piece that we talked about with the board. This building, the service is basically maxed out. Moving on, the intruder alarm system, we're recommending going forward with that. Holding off on the card reader systems. Moving forward on the parking lot and storm pool refurbishment. Holding off on the spline ceilings, and going forward with the upgrading of the kitchen equipment. Expand and upgrade the fire alarm systems on page 15 for Sunrise Drive, as well as the emergency lighting system, as well as a playground for Sunrise Drive as well. And also we recommend upgrading the gymnasium wall padding as well. So we don't have as much dollar-wise at Sunrise. We're just under $1 million in renovations at Sunrise Drive.
Part of the reason for that is they already have air conditioning.
We have air conditioning in the cafeteria and many other renovations we did in prior bonds over at Sunrise. This is the Green Avenue Learning Facility. We're recommending that the refurbishment of the storm pools, again, as a health and safety item, for about $63,000. Yes. Moving on to the Old Junior High Suffolk Community Complex, we are recommending going forward with the turf field. We are recommending going forward with the standby generator for the IMC area. And we're also recommending the third floor air conditioning at that building, as well as refurbishing the storm pools and that particular building with the complete turf field complex. We're looking at about just under $3.8 million in total. At the admin building here, we're looking at the parking, paving the parking lot with the storm pool refurbishment, expanding and consolidating the intruder alarm system, and the boiler and burner replacement here at the admin building, which is one of the big items, for about $667,000. So there is your recommendations, and that again totals $19.2. What we also provided for the board, just to put this in perspective as to cost, I also provided an amortization schedule to what the bond would look like, or the cost would look like over a period of 15 years, funded at 4.25%. Yes, it's up there. Okay. So you can see that the $19.2 million bond over 15 years, you're looking at an annual debt service of about 1.7 6 on average over the 15-year period. This is about $50,000 a year lower than if we were just to go up to a $20 million bond. So the board may recall, we provided you a lot of graphs and charts. And again, so this is what the debt service will look like. Keep in mind that we do have over $2 million of debt that is falling off in the 16-17 school year. So this is what the finance piece would look attached to that bond. So with that, I'm going to take a breath and open it up for questions. Comments?
Some of those things that you wanted to pull out and recommend pulling out and putting into the general budget, is that going to be more cost effective in doing that to offset the tax levy cap rather than putting it into the bond itself? Or is it a...
Clearly, the way the tax levy cap works, you don't have something to put in or put back. When you add a capital item in there, it's going to work against the cap. So it is cost effective to do it that way.
And then the same thing, if you don't do it for 1 year and then you do something 2 years down the road, then
You artificially raise your cap when that happens. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep that steady going forward and not spike that tax cap.
So it's a good opportunity to pull something out of the bond while saving money.
Yes, and something like that, when you talk about the unifence district-wide, I mean, you know, that's a very interesting project because there's a lot of design work in that, and there's a timeline. You can only do those projects during the summer. So the timing has to be just so that the plans and specs have to go up to S&P. They have to be approved by a certain date, and you got to be able to begin work July 1st if you're going to do X number of units within the building. You can't do it during the school year. You can't really do it on school breaks. You don't have enough school breaks. You possibly could do 1 or 2 or 3, but you're not going to be able to do an entire building. We're talking about doing about $800,000 worth of work each year for a period of 5 years until we get through all of our buildings and bring them up to speed. And we'll do it on a priority basis. We'll do the worst ones first, and we'll work our way down as need be.
I'm going to ask the question again, concerning the air conditioning at the old junior high. Again, it's almost $1 million or something that we may or may not be able to lease that building. I would seriously like to consider, before we do that, be contingent on having vouchers take that 3rd floor. So I hate to put $1 million into a building and have it stay empty.
Well, maybe I shouldn't say anything, but I'm scheduled to meet with an organization next week.
Organization?
That is very interested in renting the 3rd floor. And they need space, and if it comes to fruition, we will bring it back to the board. But it looks very, very promising.
And that needs will offset the cost of the...
Over a period of time, yes. Yes.
So we can hold off on until you tell us this organization.
But doing that,
I think just to put things in proper context and perspective, when we look at that building, the amount of monies that we've spent to renovate that building, I believe, if I recall, it was just over $7 million. The building aid that we received on that building, plus the rental income, paid for all the renovations, put us in a positive cash flow, and we're making money on the building.
So if you're saying that this lieutenant will pay for that renovation, the air conditioning,
That is
I think it's a win.
Yes, over a period of
So
time.
if it's not, then I don't see, it doesn't make sense to me.
That would happen. Well, one of the
$1 million
reasons,
to build.
one of the reasons why, one of the things we talked about is that the reason why we couldn't get anyone to rent that 3rd floor was because during the summer, heat rises, and even the colleges, you can't conduct classes in there over the summer, and even in the springtime. So the only way you're going to, if you're seriously about renting the building, you're going to have to put climate control on the 3rd floor.
I don't disagree, but it is a bit of a gamble, though. we could put $1 million into that building and still not have that floor leased.
But I guess my point is, that building hasn't cost the district or the taxpayers anything at this point. In other words, it's generating positive revenue, positive cash flow. So even if we were to invest another $1 million into the building, we're still ahead of the game. The building generates probably right now, with our current tenant, I want to say around $345,000 a year. So,
Another way to look at that, John, if you don't do it, you don't have that option.
right. So probably with that renovation, when you get a tenant, you might be looking at a 5-year payback period.
Well, I would like to see payback period and having, again, $1
Well,
million
I agree.
system that's sitting on the roof and no one's using it.
I mean, it's the board's choice. I mean,
It's just, it's
whatever you want to do.
my opinion.
Does the bond timeline work with the possibility of renting that out? You know, it takes 2 years until you get everything approved. And then,
Well, that would be one of the things that we would move forward as a priority once the bond is approved. And again, the advantage of doing this now is that we're talking about work starting and having everything really hit the road in the July of the 16-17 school year. You know, once that happens, all the planning, once the bond is approved, we can do the planning, the submittals to S&D. There'll be a lot of things that can be done. The only thing we have to wait for is July 1st to provide funding, because we can't sell the bonds until July 1st.
Stay that alone, will take 6 to 10 months.
Yeah, state aid is not replacing staff in the facilities area, so projects are taking a considerable amount of time. So you could be looking at 6 to 8 months for project approval.
And we have an estimated cost that the local taxpayer will be paying for the bond. Will it increase their taxes at all, or decrease their taxes at all?
Well, I think that we presented that, John, in one of the previous presentations, and one of the charts, and I guess it really depends how you look at it, because if you isolate, see if I can
The
find
question is, will the
presentation.
taxpayers need increase in their property taxes?
From a budget perspective, I think when you look at debt service in 1 year, the debt service in the next year, you're gonna see a decrease. So my response to that would be no. If you carve out the bond and look at it in isolation and say, what is gonna be the net impact of the tax rate on this particular piece, you'll come up with a number. Okay? And in the last the 2 presentations I did 2 charts. One was for the 15 million, one was for the 20 million. They are on the website. It shows the original cost, it shows the anticipated state aid, it shows the net cost, and it shows the potential impact to the tax rate.
If you carve it out, I understand what you mean,
Right.
if you carve it out.
So just to, for full disclosure, we want to, if you look at this in isolation, but the way we look at, when we say to the public, when we present to the public, what is the cost increase? Well, if you look at your debt service in 1 year, and you look at your debt service in year 2, you're going to see a decrease in the debt service. So you can't say that the debt service is going to cost the taxpayers more money. If anything, the debt service is going to save the taxpayers money, because over 2 million is falling off,
Right.
and you're adding 1.7. So the delta and the difference is going to be your decrease or the decrease in the potential of the tax rate. If you did nothing else, the tax rate would come down.
So if we did nothing, go down. If we did something, it won't move. It's going to be the same.
I'm sorry, I don't.
You say you said you want to look at it in isolation. You want to look at the 1.7
I didn't say I wanted to look at it.
That's what you want to look at it.
Well, if you look at it.
If you look at it in isolation, at $1.7 million of debt that on an annual basis, when I'm still correct me when I'm wrong.
That's correct.
The taxpayer looks at a tax bill. Will they see an increase in the tax bill for the bond?
You could, no.
No. That's the answer.
No.
Long road to get there, but
Thank
I
you.
got there.
I'm trying to cover every aspect.
You said that. But you
Yes.
agreed.
Thank you.
I mean, the only thing I'm concerned about is the impact on the overall budget in the future, because the difficulty we have with class size, you know, anything less we spend in a bond we can use, you know, to maybe reduce class size. And that's why I was kind of pushing for 15 million to a 17 million bond.
A lot of our class size issues are not, they're because of the inefficient way we conduct business. They're mostly on the elementary level, and it's because they're not equitable across the 3 school buildings. When you look at class size, let's say in kindergarten, we have a very high class size in Cherry Avenue. Lincoln Avenue is the average, and Sunrise Drive is small. So overall, if you could distribute that in 9 sections evenly, you have 23 students per class.
Dr. Short, can you correct me if I'm wrong? In order to reduce class sizes, we need additional staff now. Is additional staff able to lay bond and facilities upgrades off? And in many cases, the priority one is the 2s, even the 3s. Aren't those health and safety issues in many cases for students in the classroom?
Yes, and that's really, when we went through this, that's really what we went through with an eye to cold. Health and safety items and items that we thought were priority that really, you know, have to be done. You know, I'm a proponent and I understand the instructional issues, but you know, your facilities are an integral part of your instructional program. And there just, you know, there are things within this infrastructure that have to be addressed. We pride ourselves on our buildings here in Sayville. It provides a safe, nurturing, learning environment for our children. And you know, when I hear people separate them and say, well, let's, you know, we don't want to put money into the building, but you know, let's put money into the instructional program. That is your instructional program.
That means it's trying to find a balance between the two.
Yeah, but it's, you know, you need to have a safe, nurturing place for the students. Balls in your court.
Here it is.
That ends my report. We move into the Walton report.
So the board needs to come to a decision by January.
I would hope January. We have 8th and the 15th.
Thank you, John.
Sure. Mr. Belmonte would like the 8th.
Well,
The 15th, I think.
yeah, I think it could. All right, well, actually, it's underneath our Board of Education discussion. We're on Board of Education.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda tonight is Board of Education discussion. Bringing the board up is focused on 1 bond priorities. So I guess we made the determination that by January 8th and no later than 15th, we would list the priorities. Good, Deb. Paul? No? Right. Number 2 on the agenda is EPC energy performance contracts, and Paul?
Sure.
That was
I was part of the bond committee process, and great to learn about the facilities and the upgrades that we were proposing. And I just felt that since we were doing such a vast number of upgrades to the facilities, that it would provide a great opportunity to improve the green footprint of the school and also leave some home. long-term cost benefits, environmental benefits, and benefits to student health. So I started to research our energy performance contract, and I really have to commend John on a phenomenal job. The classroom ventilating units are a huge undertaking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going to have to recommission all the buildings. And so I looked to see, have we sealed the buildings properly? Have we reaped all the low-hanging fruit, such as lighting, such as water misers? With the first contract, we really have. Again, it's a wonderful job that was done. But coming across the research, I did see that there's a possibility to issue a phase 2 energy performance contract that kind of builds on the initial contract. And I guess, John, my question is, would a phase 2 energy performance contract allow us to address some of our building needs, particularly in the middle school, that we're currently addressing in the bond proposal?
If you're talking about...
Or complement.
Yeah, it would be more of a complement. These type of things that we're recommending, for instance, the roof, which is the significant piece, the payback period is too long. An energy performance contract, by definition, approved by the state education department, it has to be a project that's put together that has a payback period of at least 18 years for the state to approve it. It's a very different animal than a regular bond issue. So you could look at things like solar panels at the high school. And the reason why you would look at solar panels is because if you are putting on a new roof, and you do have the ability to evaluate solar, well, you could look at solar. In meeting with the engineering companies as of last week, I was informed that there are certain rebates that may be available that may be able to bring some of that cost, where it used to be over 40 years, now within 18 years. So it may be very feasible to bring solar panels into an energy performance contract. Also with the cogeneration plant, it may also be very feasible to supplement your boiler and your heating costs and those things with a cogeneration plant. So those are the type of things that you could look at in an energy performance contract. The subtle differences, I think, is very important to talk about. We talk about a bond, we talk about a cost, we talk about building aids. The energy performance contract stands on its own because the contract pays for itself, guaranteed 100% energy savings. Okay? So having said that, it's a very different process. You do not have to go to the voters for approval for an energy performance contract. It gets submitted to SED. SED will approve it based on the parameters they set. And the project is eligible for building aid. But because you're not going through a formal process, the building aid is reduced. In our case, instead of receiving 68% or 68 cents on every dollar, we would receive 58 cents on every dollar. So just like our other energy performance contract, where it's guaranteed savings over the 18 years of the contract, we also get building aid on that. So it puts you in positive cash flow. There's not only no cost to the taxpayer, but you're adding on your revenue side that's helping lower your tax rate down even further. They are very beneficial if you can find the things that go into an energy performance contract, then you could reap the savings within an 18-year period.
All right, so would that help to offset, I mean, we are doing some building upgrades like HVAC. This does offer an opportunity for the district at no upfront cost to possibly offset some of those increased electricity.
That's a possibility.
And I guess I'm piling on here, as if you don't have enough to do already. Would that timeline be able to run concurrently, possibly with the bond, if we were moving forward anytime in the next year or two, as far as the RFP process?
Yeah, I think we could. I think if the board wanted to look at that, I mean, we have a couple of ways to look at it. We could bring in, I've already met with the group of engineers and evaluated the last project, and We can bring them in, we can have them do a presentation to the board in January, or the board may want to convene a little subcommittee. And, you know, since Carl is very knowledgeable in this area, we'd love to have him on it, to work with us and the engineers.
I nominate Paul.
Since Carl volunteered, I think,
Anybody second?
you know, that might be a very effective way to bring something back to the board that may be very viable and simultaneously tied to this bond referendum project that we're
I mean,
proposing.
certainly, if what Carl is suggesting is going to benefit the bond project overall, energy savings, it's, you know, it's makes no sense not to look at it. And saves us money at the same time. It's a good idea.
And there's, I mean, there's an educational benefit, there's an environmental benefit that, even though it's not financially quantifiable, it goes right into the career technology education, it goes into STEM. You know, you can build classes around it. There are schools in New Jersey that have the students actually monitor the retrofits. You know, you can do amazing things with it from a curriculum perspective as well. So,
The cogen would take the place of burners, is it, or rather,
the cogens would work with the existing units. Because the cogen is, you're piping in fuel, you have an on-site turbine that generates electricity, and you use the waste heat from that turbine to, say, heat the pool. That's why the cogen at the middle school would be the best.
So it's not as if you take out the boilers and put in
No,
cogen,
we
just
work
it
within the
works with
existing
the
system
boilers.
because we're not replacing the boilers.
And co-generated using this roof panels or solar panels to.
That would be, that's a separate, that would be a separate part of the EPC.
But it's not part of cogeneration.
No.
You look like a heat pump type thing, this is something
It would-
similar.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have a heat pump that would take the waste heat from
Yeah.
the electrical generation. And you also don't have to do, there's a generator on at the middle school or after. So, I mean, it's also,
But what do we drive, what would we drive turbines with? Just
you
heat,
pipe in the fuel and combust the fuel on site.
natural gas or, I guess.
You can do dual fuel there.
Gas oil.
Correct.
And then you require heat.
So I guess we could get people for RFPs to come in, to look at
Well, we
that.
basically go through the same process.
Johnson Controls,
We would work with, first of all, we would work with our architectural firm, as well as working with ECG, who was the engineers for Johnson Controls. Keep in mind that when we went through the process last time, we appointed ECG as the engineers. They go through the whole design phase of the project with us, then they put it out to different ESCOs, and then there's an RFP selection process with the district and with the engineers. We basically get to choose who we feel is the best candidate to provide, you know, the work for the district.
So you
We were
suggesting-
extremely pleased with the work and the coordination done by ECG and Johnson Controls. It was actually amazing, the coordination that we did, $7.2 million worth of work within 1 year with the bus movement. It was just, it was an incredible coordination activity, and they did everything very well.
So you call it a subcommittee of the board, maybe we'd like to get the. Keith, you interested?
yeah.
So we want to set one of Johnson Controls. Who do you recommend first, John, that we would?
I would convene a meeting with ECG. The subcommittee will meet with them and we'll discuss some of the possibilities, evaluate, you know, what we might be able to do, and then bring something back to the board.
Call me one person on it?
Sure.
Okay. Listen, I'm one interested. Next item on the agenda is 3 class size, kindergarten and 4th grade at Cherry Avenue. I did have the chance to get up to Cherry Avenue to take a look at the kindergarten class as well as 4th grade classes. Charts. I first visited the kindergarten classrooms at Cherry Avenue, 26, 26, and 26 in there.
25.
25, 25.
Yeah, we're in.
Currently.
Okay, at 26. And
It should be 25.
I'm sorry, I was looking at that. 25, 25. they have an aide in there for 1 hour, 2 hours? And did they add another hour in for the aides?
No, they've had 25 since.
No, the aides. There's been an aide there.
There's been 8 since the beginning of the year.
I was only in there 5 minutes. The aide, certainly it's beneficial the aides in there. And,
Oh, yeah.
well, 2 hours may seem like it's a lot, but frankly, it's probably just barely enough. Because I was only there 5 minutes. Kids were facing the wall, they were looking up into space, and trying to get the whole class together.
What I want to show you to give you the full picture is you were looking at this side. Flip it over, which gives you January 2015. There happens to be, West Sayville is a very popular place, especially for parents with kindergarten kids.
So we're going to see an increase.
We have a tentative increase of 3 students in kindergarten in Cherry Avenue due to house closings over Christmas break.
It's 2 hours enough already.
Well, when we were talking about 26 in those classes, the board already said 1 hour and more. And all 3 will have 26 based on this. It's also my recommendation, if it keeps in this direction, that in the first grade, it goes to 4 sections.
Well, I get that. And I went to the 4th grade, maybe I'll finish up 4th grade classrooms as well. But,
And that I'm not going to recommend.
well, and I could see managing the classroom of 25, 26 kindergarten classroom, and 27 4th graders. I don't know why, we seem to be shaking the tree and finding money in places. I think we really need to shake the tree a little harder and find some money to put aides in the classroom. So I think a half hour, I would like to see 2 hours, but it's at the point where I was in there for 5 minutes. I'm like, I grew up with a family of 5 brothers. You know, I had 3 friends. So you can imagine what I was like in my house, and I'm not a teacher. But being a teacher in that classroom, the dynamics in those classrooms, we just found money for software. We're finding money. We need to find money for aides. We really do. It's going to be half the cost of where we're at last year. Something that we really need.
Oh, you ready?
You can't lose sight of last May either.
I agree, we can't lose sight of May, but
But then that comes back to my point about debt service. We need to find more room in the budget for class size, and we have to think about what we're going to.
We can fix, again, class size is a function of how we choose to do business in elementary school.
well, that's
That's not easy to fix the way.
in front of us, and
Yes,
and
I could see
I don't
like
want to kick
some
that
of-
can down the road any further, but.
Right.
I think fundamentally too.
It's, I was in the class for 5 minutes, and these kids certainly were engaged, but to have a teacher try to manage a class of 27 kids without having any support there, it didn't make it. I didn't feel comfortable. I left that day, and I'm like, no, this is, we have to change something, we have to do it.
Well, I think fundamentally in the age of Common Core, increased standards, you have increased testing on that level, you have increased demands placed on teachers at the younger levels. So we have a more stressful environment, and I think fundamentally we need to think about shifting resources maybe from the secondary level, because this is where children are developing foundational skills. This is where they're learning to read, this is where they're learning to write, this is where they're learning to function in groups. You know, again, we want as many programs.
Carl, that's why I said,
And
in kindergarten to
Yeah,
first
no.
grade, I
Yeah,
agree.
no, that
That needs to go to 4 sections.
And the teachers, and again, I was only there, I was 5, 10 minutes tops. They're losing the one-on-one time. And there's some classes there, maybe some students need to be a little bit more one-on-one. How do you spend 5 minutes with one student without having any other support? Which is something that I think we need to do now.
And what do you do for those 326s in Lincoln?
4th grade.
Fourth grade.
What is it down there, but I think it's doing the same thing.
And ones
And one's a, probably needs a, I don't want to say that their needs are any greater or less than the Cherry Avenue.
It's a good precursor to the budget process.
It's something that needs to get done.
It's not even on the agenda here, but it kind of speaks to this in speaking about teachers getting to students. I did mention this the other day to you about RTI. What is the scope that there's a bare minimum that I think that we should go for? And are our teachers overextending themselves with this RTI? You know, I've talked to a bunch of teachers, and they didn't so far say that it was a waste of time, but some of it might be over the top. So basically what I'm saying, I make the analogy of auditors. You know, I'm pretty confident in the way we do business here, but we're mandated to have all these auditors, and we've had discussions about limiting the scope of the auditors because they're doing what we have to do and save our money. So I guess my question is RTI, are we doing this much when we could be doing this much and being acceptable
when you
by
say
the
this
state?
much, are you talking about the assistance we give the kids?
Just all the data that we have to produce.
You're talking about
I think the
screening
The
process.
screening and the data we have to produce. Now, I don't know if you have the answer right now, but I think that's something that we might have to look at, because I think the teachers, their resources with these class sizes being so high are being pulled away for this RTI, which is mandated by the state. But I think maybe we should take a look at if we're doing too much, you know, are we overkilling it where we could spread it out?
Is there one thing from teachers to screen? Teachers don't screen.
Three
They
times
do
a
it during
year.
their class
So-
time.
Some different, but there's.
Well, we did that presentation last spring.
Yeah.
And, and I think overall, you got a very positive impression of where our program is. We have scheduled a stakeholders meeting, which is, that's teachers from all three buildings, or all different grade levels. We'll be meeting with them in January. And the whole purpose of that stakeholders meeting is to reevaluate, is this the most efficient way to engage in this process?
That's good.
I've heard the pros and the cons about there's two screenings used for ELA, there's two screenings used for math.
Right.
It has become incredibly efficient in terms of the time they do it, but it's a chunk of time. And could we do it as efficiently if we use one? We actually had that discussion last year, and the decision was to go forward with the two for ELA, the two for math. There's no hard and fast rule that says we can't adjust that. The assessment we use, it's a screening assessment. And what some folks have a real hard time with is it doesn't always give you perfect results. So, but for the majority of kids, you get a pretty good handle, but not for all. And it's a screener. So it doesn't really tell you, well, if they didn't do that well, it doesn't really tell you, but it doesn't tell you what you have to do about it. But it might be a for going deeper. And that's also part of what we're looking at too, is when we need to go deeper and try to understand better where our students' weaknesses or strengths are, for that matter. What are the best diagnostic tools to use? Because again, those diagnostic tests are more involved, they take time, but they're, so you try to be judicious about when you use those. But we do have that RTI stakeholders meeting scheduled, and if that's the kind of feedback you're getting, I hope that we can tease that out, because we really do. We spend the full day, and we really try to hash those things out.
Yeah, and it's not to say that RTI is not producing positive things, and of course we're using that in a positive way. But I don't know if there's things that we can possibly limit or do things differently. And at that meeting, maybe hopefully that discussion will happen.
Minimize instead of.
Right.
And for me, the challenge is
screener's gonna catch something, it's just not gonna diagnose.
Taking the temperature, if you have a temperature, then you have to figure out why.
Right, so, I mean, it offers positive things, I just don't know. And the Ames web is,
That's what we've been
you know,
using.
it costs a lot of money too, you know.
Well, there's definitely a cost
cost
involved
with
with that. I mean, the state, you know, that now a screener is required.
Right.
Ames Web is not the only game in town, but after, you know, considering a lot of different things, we felt it was probably the most efficient way to
Right.
handle it. And speaking with colleagues in other districts who use other programs, I haven't heard of a perfect program yet.
Right.
So our hope is that they keep getting better.
Right.
You know, Ames Web certainly isn't perfect, but it does offer a lot of information.
Like I said, hopefully they come with some thoughts of how
Knowing the stakeholders, I'm sure they
Yeah.
will, and I welcome it.
Yeah.
Because that's, you know, that's the purpose. This is not an administrative-driven
Right.
process. It's a teacher-driven process, as it should be.
And I have to stand up for the audience and say, serve an important role too.
They certainly do. That's not to say that they don't, but, you know,
You know,
having layers of them sometimes.
Serves a role.
Yeah, sometimes they
You
don't.
don't have players more than the same question.
The biggest thing
And I
to me.
think it's
Oh,
also,
I'm sorry.
I was kind of joking, but also from the presentation I got last spring, it was a very collaborative method, I thought, and there was a lot of safety, I thought, for the students. I mean, I'm not a teacher, so I don't know on the inside how it is, but on the outside.
It's unfolding, so, you know, I would never say we're there yet. Two of the most important things to me, which I've said before, but if they bear repeating, is that it's comprehensive and it's systematic. So there's consistency when you go from classroom to classroom, when you go from grade to grade, and it's comprehensive. When I was a young teacher, you never looked at every kid. You looked at the kids who drew your attention, whether they, you know, they were failing or behavior. But this, we really step back and look at every child so that you know, I mean, we don't want to let any kids slip through the cracks.
Yeah, see, I mean, I just think that the teachers are so good that they really have a beat on all these kids, and they know what's going on. You know?
I'd say 90% of the
Yeah.
time. I think there's always a risk, though, that there's a kid who, you know, just kind of,
Yeah.
you know, gets under the radar.
Again, I just don't want something to take away from instruction, and when I hear that it is, you know, I want to look at it and make sure it's not.
And it might be time to consider that, you know,
Yeah.
the 2 or the 1, but hopefully we'll see some of that happen.
Great, thanks, John.
All right. Got that taken care of. Next item on the board discussion is, are we done with attendance at FRA Compton?
Somebody likes to talk about this. John Minow will speak now.
I've met myself a couple of times. It's February 1st through 3rd. It's down in Washington, D.C. I'm appointed by New York State School Boards Association to Sayville as well as Suffolk County. So I need board approval of that. So the registration fee is paid by New York State.
Thank you.
We're meeting with our new Senator, Zeldin, Peter,
Okay.
and Peter King. If so far we haven't had a chance to see each other face to face, but we did meet with his education aide, and we'll be talking to Charles Schumann and
Thank you.
It's pretty good. And I am driving down with 4 other board members from Suffolk County, President of William Floyd, President of Islip, President of Bay Shore, and so it's an interesting trip down. But we have very interesting conversations. Sometimes we have 4 different opinions, and being that I'm not driving, I have no choice but to agree sometimes. So anyway, thank you. Next item on the agenda is claims audit report.
Matt got the minute last minute, but it was after 4, I think.
I saw it.
Is that when it got up?
It was better than waiting till
They did put it on
January.
now. He's been very good at that.
Just on there? Sometime agreeing on that.
No, I looked at it, I mean, do you have any comments? You know, as far as highlights or anything?
We've been working very closely with the auditor. Again, there's a tremendous amount of volume. He is extremely thorough, and which is a good thing.
Very.
Thorough to the point where we.
The one thing I wanted to say, the void check is not necessarily a bad thing.
Correct.
You know, I would be more worried about this because there's only 3 voids, rather than.
And keep in mind, a lot of those void checks that you see, the checks that we void, fortunately with the confirmation system, the way the check is processed, until we actually get the check on and a backup with it, and then put everything together in the packet, sometimes there's either input errors or whatever happens, and we end up voiding the check. So a lot of times you'll see those void checks, you'll see the auditor's comment will be voided by staff.
Yeah.
Those are things that we get as we put the package together before we even give it to them. So,
And
it's
just
very,
it
very,
demonstrates that there's checks and balances.
it's very, very comprehensive process. At the point, having the claims auditor, the controller's office, and just finished with the external auditors, and the internal auditors.
He's having fun, John.
We're having a blast.
Having a good time. Any,
Yeah.
I said, Mary, you know,
He
it's
said
really
maybe.
good.
I had the chance last night to go to another GEA advocacy group. Turnout was much better than the first time. I was going to say about 30 people there, 35 people there. Had Yonkers, I think, some Lead.
Deb was there. And there were 24.
Walter was there. Keith, Carl, Tom were also there. It was a very good, and these two individuals for the advocacy group were actually, excellent people. There was a lot of letters written. There's going to be another social media blast next week, I believe.
Yeah, Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, I believe.
Yep.
The lawn signs were handed out, and there's some lawn signs. If everyone's have a lawn sign, I do have some extra lawn signs.
John, thank you for getting us.
And I know Fred wants one, so I got one for Fred, so. We do have some lawn signs available, if anybody wants one. Please put it on your own property, don't put it on town property, because if you put it on town property, the town's gonna take it, unless it says go for Tom Croce or.
Put it in front of John Flanagan's
It's,
sign, pictures.
we seem to be getting some momentum. We had people from Bay Shore there, we had people from Islip there. We had some, I think some other districts from out east there, so it is getting some roots. People are becoming excited about it. I find it still amazing that there's some people who still don't know what it is.
And yeah, I think if you know what it is, if you learn about it, you can't agree with it. So it's not a divisive thing. If everyone learns about it, you will, without a doubt, disagree with what's going on. And so it's an easy sell, is what I'm trying to say. You know.
And further to explain what it is, the GEA, it's a clawback that the state does. They say you're supposed to get this much in aid, take 15 million, and they decide to take back $1 million on their own land. So it's money that's due to Sayville. The last 5 years we've lost 15 million. Over 15 million. And last year or this year,
27.
yeah, and also it's like $900 per student.
But again, what I was saying with these two individuals doing is, they do these sport, they should not go unnoticed. I mean, they've been to Ronkonkoma, civic associations that we were just recently at the Sayville Fire Department. So it is gaining some momentum. Take the lawn signs, put them on your front lawn. Engage your friends and family, and as Tom Cooley says, 5 friends tell 5 friends.
Yeah. And it's got to happen now, because once the budget process is sealed in April, it's done.
Just so you know, they're talking about having a special session this month, or early next month, to go back to Albany, and they're talking about the special sessions to vote themselves raises, which is interesting that they certainly vote themselves raises as long as it's tied to our GEA. I have no problem. So if we get their raises, I really think we deserve our GEA back. Again, these two women are actually fabulous. That's all right.
Are they all coming here?
I understand there's going to be quite a few of them. on January 8th.
It's interesting. Were you here when the fire department came?
Oh,
Yeah, I was here when the fire department was here. And that's all I have.
In regard to the Shore and Wading River resolution, you guys have a chance to read that?
Yes.
Is that something that we could just sign on with them like we've done in the past with that New Paltz resolution, I think it was
Yeah, with
last
the New
year?
Paltz.
Or could we just cut and paste theirs and go with it, or why wouldn't we do it?
I would think that you would want to customize it to Sayville. And
But
then send it up to,
It's a pretty good resolution.
send it up to Merrill.
The way they did it.
And everyone heard that wish that John King resigned, right?
Yeah, control the United States.
I have tissues in the bag for the kids.
Yeah, but way to go.
State education on one hand, and federal on it, and they cut funding for education. So, it's a lot of stuff. They put the money in.
So this resolution is disagreeing with the field tests that are going on that New York State is requiring and all the adverse effects it's having on our students. And it's a well-done resolution, it's there.
Yeah, part of it is that field tests currently are not required. So they're strongly urged. And what they've turned into is really doing testing of questions for these companies, such as Pearson, it's the one that you hear most of, and creating banks of questions that Pearson owns, which it states in here is morally wrong, using our children for that. Okay. And, that I strongly support the board adopting this resolution. We have in the past, last year, we were slated to do park, and I declined to do the park. I don't know if any of the other schools got field tests to do. I didn't hear of it.
No, we did.
You did some?
Well, the
The
resolution.
traditional, not the,
Right,
Resolution would have.
absolutely.
I think are they sending these up to the state education department?
So, yes.
We're walking on tonight, or?
We can do it. Most, I think,
Dr. Short, you were not involved with this.
yes.
the state usually doesn't push out the field tests until late in the spring. So, they would get the message.
We put in the January.
It is.
Any other board discussion? Okay, I'm going to open up the public session. If you would like to speak, I'm going to ask that you step up to the podium. Although you're not required to do so, you don't have to state your name. So we know who to call it, what like to be addressed by name.
I'm going to go over one of the topics that was brought up about the class sizes. It's unfortunate that after aggressively advocating last year related to the overcrowded classrooms, I find myself again in front of the board and the administration to insist the district provide our children with the optimal learning experience that they're entitled to. Last year, we were reassured that those numbers would not occur again this year. Not only did they reoccur, you allowed 2 more children to come in to that grade level. I would like to make the board aware that of some of those children, their addresses are not in the parameter of Cherry Avenue. It was explained to me that accommodations were made, and I commend the board for meeting the needs of these children, but they then affected all the other children in the class. And so accommodations should have been made for all of those children. John went in the classroom. Our teachers used to be able to break down into groups. They used to meet with their students one-on-one. Now, we have to worry if they can physically fit in a classroom. My son's class, they can't even all face forward because there's not enough room in that classroom. These numbers have been like this since my son's been in kindergarten. He has never been in a class. You can shake your head, Dr. Schardner. I have the lists of those classes. He has never been in a classroom less than 25, and it has been increasing ever since. I have done research. The studies show, and I actually, Mary, if you'd like to hand these out, I have studies that show that students who are assigned to smaller classrooms in the early grades do better, thank you very much, in every way that can be measured. They score higher on tests, they receive better grades, they exhibit improved attendance. The smaller classroom size also encourages and enhances the development of non-cognitive skills that are not captured in all this testing, like persistence, motivation, self-esteem, which are all linked to the success of children in school and in life. Estimated that every dollar that's invested in reducing class size, even though it's small, can yield about $2 in benefits. The benefits of the class size reduction in the early grades last throughout the student's educational career. And students who attended smaller classes in the early grades were significantly ahead of their regular class peers in all subjects in later grades. There were significantly lower dropout rates, higher grades, and better results on college entrance exams. And class size reduction is the most effective method to improve the quality of teaching. Aids were implemented last year. However, they were only a Band-Aid. Our children need to be taught. It is common knowledge that this district will have a teacher retiring at the end of the school year, in addition to 7 positions being absorbed due to low enrollment. One of these positions should be kept to provide a future 5th grade teacher in opening a 4th classroom. I will say, as a parent standing here, I'm highly insulted with your comment that you would pick one classroom size is more important than another. My son's been going through this since kindergarten, but you sat there and said, oh, well, we'll do the kindergarten, and then you referred back to Lincoln Avenue for the 26-26. I have 26, 26, and 25, and one of those classes is inclusion. So they do have assistance. They do have help. My son has had none, and still doesn't, and his classroom sizes are still going up. So a classroom, I think that you know that either they need that 4th classroom, they need that extra teacher, and since you've demonstrated the resistance to incorporating in the budget an additional teacher for our children, then I strongly suggest that you look into the hiring of a certified teaching assistant to float evenly through those 3 4th grade classrooms at Cherry Avenue to assist the teachers with instruction. My kids don't need to be babysat. They don't need a helper. They need to be instructed. A teacher cannot do that. I get 3 minutes up here to speak to you. My son can't even get 1 minute with his teacher one-on-one time. And if she did do that, it would be at almost 30 minutes, which is almost a lesson plan for her. How could she possibly do that on her own? So effective immediately, I request that position be approved, negotiations get underway, and the hiring begin so our children can now receive the classroom education that Sayville has been promising. In addition, I'd like the Board of Education to consider the placement of this hire to be established only at Cherry Avenue in the 4th grade, not at the PALS at Lincoln, not at self-contained in Sunrise. I have contacted the personnel and human resources of 13, Mary, if you want me to just pass that to them, 13 surrounding school districts. I called Amityville, Bayport, Bayshore, Brentwood, Cumswag, Connecticut, East Islip, Harbor Fields, Hop, Islip, Miller Place, Sachem, and West Hampton. 13 districts. More than half of them use certified teaching assistants. The position will also need to be considered for the 15-16 school year for this grade level when they move up to 5th grade, because I'm not coming here to advocate for services that my child's peers are getting at his sister schools, but he can't get at his. We need a decision soon. In a month, not next year, not we'll see what happens, not kindergarten is coming first. I don't want to hear the excuses. I don't want to hear it's related to the budget, because these numbers were happening before you had problems with your budget. I want to know what you're going to do. I heard John say it's important to have someone in there. They don't need an aide. They need someone to teach. They need an instructor. We need a certified teaching assistant if you're not going to give us a teacher. I need something starting in January for all of these children, and it needs to continue into 15, 16. You pull out your magic bag, you figure out what it is you have to do, but something has to be done. I have come up here over and over and over last year. I think Carl said the same thing. These are very important times. These kids have never seen under 25 kids in their class, ever. And I have to come every single meeting last year. They get aides for 2 hours. Who's instructing them? How is their teacher supposed to do this? 27 children in the class. My daughter's in middle school. I don't even think she has 27 kids in some of her classes. It's unacceptable. I need to know what your plan is. You have to have a plan. There has to be a plan. You have to have something. I can't walk away from here today and go, well, we'll discuss it, we'll talk it. No, something has to be done. And not an aide. I'm sorry, an aide can't teach. An aide can't help those teachers instruct. She's not going to be able to break down in a group and instruct another smaller group when the teacher's doing something else. You were in there. I think you've spoken to the principals. I think these teachers have told you what is going on in those classrooms. It can no longer be ignored. It can't. And I'm not going to sit here and listen as a parent that I've been coming here every board meeting last year. And then you tell me that I think the kindergartners, I don't want the kindergartners to suffer either. And I think you should start looking at your Cherry Avenue 3rd grade level also. Because any more children in there, you're going to have 25 across the board also. I can't even understand how 2 more kids got in there. I need to hear something.
We're not prepared to give you what you're asking for. We'll discuss it.
How quickly will you discuss it?
We'll discuss it and we'll get back to you.
I need a time frame.
We'll discuss it and we'll get back to you.
I think you should have a time frame in which you're going to discuss it and get back. You can have a time frame in which you think. I have the numbers. You can look at them. This is from their personnel and HR. They're all comparable salaries. And if I'm correct, they might even be less than what the aides were.
And if I'm correct, all but 2 or 3 of them are currently using some form of Princeton plan.
I don't want to go to the Princeton plan.
I know you don't.
No, I don't want to even discuss it. That has nothing to do with hiring a certified teaching assistant. You can.
It all has something to do with it. It's all intermingled.
The Princeton plan. So Princeton plan is going to determine whether this district can hire a certified teaching assistant. I don't think that's an accurate statement. Am I correct in what am I rephrasing you correctly?
There's a lot of variables within these districts that are different from our variables.
Being.
I told you one, I'm sure there are many others.
Well, Bayport Blue Point's Princeton, and I think she had a number for Bayport Blue Point, right?
Bayport Blue Point's one. Hopog also has 3K2, but they also have the largest industrial area in the country.
Okay.
I don't want to hear excuses. I want to hear a plan.
Discuss it more together.
Thank you. Anybody else? Again, please stand, step up to the podium if you, as I said before, not necessarily to state your name, but.
Thank you. Well, I think Lisa is right, and I think that, excuse me for saying so, if the arrogance around May 20th's budget vote didn't exist, you have an open ear to the public, this may have been dealt with instead of threatening the Princeton plan at that time. Shared areas, what have you, maybe we could have worked something out, and we wouldn't be where we are, having to deal with this in an emergency. That said, in terms of the bond that's coming up, I think it was last year, we had a savings of $300,000 in debt service payments. Was it 300,000 last year? Roughly. Well, that savings of decreasing debt service we used to maintain our programs, correct? And we touted that we had towards our programs, and we saved our programs. So I'd just like the board to keep in mind that as our debt service decreases and you think to level it off, that we did need that 300,000 last year that it decreased by. Making sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? No.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm trying to catch what you're saying. but-
Last year, we had a savings of 300,000. Over the
You made that
next.
point. Please go on.
Oh, I didn't know, I thought he was looking at me.
Yeah, Go ahead, now, go.
Okay. That's all, I'd just like you to keep that in mind, that we did need that money to keep our programs. And I don't think the future will be much different. I think we need some of that 1.7 million. Other question I had is for John. John Monty, if that's okay, or no?
Well, to the
Yes,
board.
yes,
the board?
yes,
Okay.
ma'am, full director.
When the audit was done by the state controller's office, did they ask if there was any known fraud or theft or abuse?
Which order?
When the state controller's office
Right.
came,
Right.
within their audit, did they ask the district if the district knew of or suspected any fraud, theft, abuse,
I
or
was
waste?
I was interviewed by the auditors. They asked me that question. My answer to them was, I have no knowledge of any fraud or malfeasance or anything going on. That was my answer to the question they asked me.
So you told them that you didn't have any knowledge of it? Okay, thank you. My question is, since there was some theft in the have any internal controls been adjusted so that doesn't happen again, or we decrease the risk?
There's been theft in the district, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
No.
I just want clarification. What's she talking about?
I have no idea. And it's really not pertinent tonight. Can you give us a question about the topics we're talking about tonight?
My understanding is it's an open public meeting and I can present.
Generally, we try to keep it on top. You know, it's almost.
I know what time it is, but the next meeting will be January, and then we'll be here with the VA or the veterans, and then we're down to the bond. This is a simple
Rizzo,
question. Have we adjusted any controls?
I have no knowledge of any
We have to get back to you.
theft.
Okay, you don't have any.
Malfeasance,
Have we
corruption,
adjusted
anything.
any controls since early September? Internal controls in the Building and Grounds Department? No?
Give me an example of type of control. I mean, I can't.
Not have one person run around and pick up all the-
You asked me a hypothetical question,
Okay.
I have an answer.
Not have one person run around and pick up all the supplies?
I
Not
don't
have, make
Ask me
someone,
a
make
question.
somebody confirm that invoices match up with work orders, that the materials purchased are all in the district and being used?
You were here 2 weeks ago when we had our auditor firm here.
Yes, but they don't check that. That's
No,
not
but
their.
we have many other auditors, and we generally get stellar remarks on all of our auditing
Right,
controls.
I understand that.
And more so than other districts, in saying we have more controls in place. Okay? So I'll take your question down, and then, we'll get.
But if the state controller was not notified that there was suspected fraud or theft, even just suspected, they cannot examine internal controls to come
The
to
state order on a cycle of every 5 years comes and examines districts. We have to be in that cycle, and that's why they're here.
Right, but they don't look at everything.
I don't
The
know what they're
fine-tooth
looking
comb-
at.
No, they don't.
I don't know what they're looking
Okay,
at.
they don't, but if they're not told ahead of time, that's why they ask.
Maybe you know what they're looking at. You
No.
tell me they don't. I don't know what they're looking at.
Right, you don't, but what I'm
Well,
saying to you.
you do.
No,
You
don't.
just said you do.
No, I'm saying if you don't tell them ahead of time, if you suspect fraud, they don't know where to look.
I'm gonna repeat what I
So
said
they can't
before.
comment.
I'm gonna repeat what I said before. The state orders are here because it's part of that 5-year cycle. That's why they're here. They ordered every district in New York State. We happen to be in that cycle.
And
that's
if,
why.
like Mr. Cooley was saying, they compliment and they say they've done a great job, that they can only say that based on the information they're given. That's what I'm saying.
The state orders come and audit Sayville. They're gonna give us an opinion of what they find. They're not gonna say we're good, they're not gonna say we're bad, they're gonna give us an opinion of what they found. And that's it. As compared to the orders that we have in district, they give a different opinion of what state orders. Two different entities.
Then whose job is it to make sure that when materials are purchased, that they are used within the district? Which audit, I don't know, there's so
I'm
many
gonna direct
different
that
committees
question,
and layers, like
I'm gonna
Mr.
direct that question to
Closer.
John Belmont.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Thank
Appreciate that.
you. You're welcome.
First and foremost, one thing that I want to say is that at all times, we modify, improve, enhance our internal controls. I think the issues that you may be talking about are subjective, they're not validated, there has been no confirmation. It's hearsay. The district takes appropriate action when we know that there's any type of impropriety. We have disciplinary procedures that we follow in accordance with board's policies, and we always learn from things that we do. We're constantly stressing internal controls. As a matter of fact, the first audit that we had from the Controller's Office, the district was complimented that we not only do what's required, but we go above and beyond. And we continue to go above and beyond. But to directly answer your question, yes, there is a process in place. We monitor, we make sure that the materials are being used, okay? And when something is brought to our attention that we're aware of, we follow it up appropriately. And the district takes the most appropriate action.
But my question was, have any internal controls been changed since September?
Many
To
internal
further
controls,
prevent.
we change internal controls every day. Further prevent what?
Possible theft, to strengthen the ones you already have, regardless of what
We do that
was
every
said.
day. The workings of the internal claims order, the scrutiny of every bill, the checking of signatures, the verification of inventory. We go through an annual inventory process. Everything is accounted for. If you look at our audit statement, our fixed assets, there's a listing. Everything is accounted for. Everything has tax numbers. Can we control if an employee wants to steal a pencil?
No, I'm not talking about a pencil.
I think the
I'm
board-
talking about refrigerants.
Yeah, and I think
okay?
the board.
And that is, the amount that the district used
Right,
this
and
year
I-
is an
And
incredible amount.
I think
of
the
districts
board
use that.
collectively, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but maybe we could all speak collectively here, I think we're pretty confident with our internal controls at this point. So hopefully that suffices to your question.
Not really. Not
Okay,
the
well,
Office of State
but-
Controller wasn't noted, but I
Okay,
think
well,
they need to
as
be
it
so they
stands
can
right
check
now,
what's
as it
necessary.
stands right now, this Board of Education is comfortable with the internal controls of what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other community questions?
First, let me start off by saying that I am extremely out of my element by being up here, so please excuse me if I'm a little shaky. But I do not come here tonight as a professional public speaker. I come here tonight to represent the voices of my 7- and 4-year-old little girls, along with the voices of many other concerned parents as well. And after just 10 short days, I have brought before me a petition with 75 signatures asking the Sayville District School Board to review and perhaps consider adapting a new policy regarding outdoor recess protocol, specifically the minimum temperatures at which the children are mandated to play outside. I understand that the current guideline states in the event that the wind chill is less than 15 degrees, students will stay inside at recess. On Tuesday, November 18th, the wind chill read 18 degrees. Sayville District required it to be a mandatory 25-minute outdoor recess day. When I asked my daughter what she did at recess, her response was, walked around and found some ice. The next morning, my daughter had tears in her eyes, knowing it would be another freezing cold outdoor recess day that she did not want to be out in. At that point, I took it upon myself, as a mother, to see if other districts thought it suitable temperatures to be called an outdoor recess day as well. The results I came to find were pretty astonishing. After personally calling 12 surrounding nearby districts, not one of them implemented a mandatory outdoor recess day that Tuesday, November 18th. All 12 actually practiced the same outdoor recess protocol, which differs drastically from Sayville's, a 17-degree difference to be exact. All the districts I spoke to that day were often surprised by the frigid guidelines we do follow, as they all feel it necessary that their students stay indoors in any temperature or wind chill that falls below 32 degrees. The following evening, my husband and I brought forward this concern of ours as parents to the Sunrise Drive PTA meeting. I followed up with 2 questions. 1, why is Sayville District's guidelines so drastically different than what seems to be the typical uniform guideline that other districts follow? And 2, if we can't change the guideline, can we at least give our kids and their parents the option to stay indoors in below freezing temperatures? The 2 answers I received from Mrs. Costello that evening were: 1, I do not have an answer as to why Sayville District's guidelines are so different than others. Sayville tends to do things differently. And 2, no, I cannot offer the option for indoor-outdoor recess because I do not have the facilities or staff to provide. So at this point, with the current and stated guideline, the only way the district will honor my request as a parent for my child to be kept indoors in 15-degree temperatures would be for me to have to come to the school and sign her out for recess. But as a working parent, my child does not have that option 3 out of the 5 days of the week. She should not be penalized for that by being forced to have to stand outside freezing cold for 25 minutes. I was also quite surprised that the safety and comfort of those children who don't want or like to be out there is not much of a concern to the district. I have printed out, indicated, and provided each of you copies of reputable documentation, mainly the CDC, posing the risk, safety, and health hazards of children being outside in below freezing temperatures, especially without proper attire. According to the CDC, they cite the risk of frostbite is increased in people with reduced blood circulation and among people who are not dressed properly for extremely cold temperatures. If a child comes unprepared to gym class without the proper sneakers on, this becomes a safety concern for the school and the child cannot participate in that activity for that day. I strongly do believe that if a child has come to outdoor recess on a 16-degree wind chill day without any gloves or hat, he or she's health and safety are being put at risk and should be a concern. Up to 80% of total body heat loss is from your head and neck areas, so unless the school can provide a hat, scarf, and/or gloves for all these kids who are not properly prepared, then they should not be out there in such low temperatures. Our children are on a cold metal playground for 25 minutes in temperatures that are below freezing on some days, and it seems our Sayville kids are the only kids mandated to be outside in that kind of temperature circumstance. As I gathered signatures of other parents with the same concerns as my husband and I received a lot of feedback too. Many of them told me this has bothered them for a very long time, but seems to be an issue with the district board in changing it. I also spoke with parents who are outdoor aides in Sayville District. Needless to say, they were more than willing to support a revision in the policy. And there were also the parents who were former Sayville District students that cringed at the memory of when they were forced to be outside in extremely cold temperatures as well. But best of all were the children who were with the parents signing, thanking me for trying to do this. As a parent and a mother, when my child comes to me with a problem that is making her feel uncomfortable, I cannot and will not sleep easy at night unless I know I have done all I possibly can do as her protector to ease her discomfort and work through her problem. By starting this petition, I dedicated much time, effort, and energy with hopes that there can be a revision to the current policy that we can all be comfortable with. By proposing it to you here tonight, I am doing exactly what I think I should be doing as a mother. I am trying to be the best parent I can be with the concern of the health, safety, and comfort of my children and all of the children of the district as well. I will exhaust all outlets that are open to this proposal. Please take the time to review over the documentation that I have provided for you. And if at the end of the day I am not successful in this personal and passionate endeavor that I have taken on, then I can at least tell my daughters that I tried my very best and did not just give up. A little experiment. Tonight reads a 21-degree wind chill. Stand outside for 25 minutes. See how comfortable you feel afterwards. Thank you for all your time and attention.
I just
like to know why there was so much AC on the bond, so much air conditioning on the bond. I mean, I know there was a lot of air
Yeah,
conditioning.
there was a lot of air conditioning.
Right, so like, I'm being a little bit of an old curmudgeon, but I went to school here and there was no AC, and that was totally fine by me. And we didn't even have summer school last year, right?
I mean, my simple answer to that is there isn't the amount of asthma, issues as what there were when we were growing up. And my personal opinion is that I think it's good to have at least one spot in the school, like the cafeteria, for a place to have air conditioning, just in case on a really severe hot day, there's a place to go.
But we didn't even have, I might be wrong, but because of what happened with the May budget vote last year, we didn't even have summer school. So you're talking about a few very hot days in September or June?
I remember very hot days when I was in school.
Like a couple, right.
September, October, and May and June.
Right. I didn't have asthma, but, I survived. It seemed like a lot of categories, and they were all recommended by,
Come on.
The auditorium.
Thank you.
The auditorium.
And
I don't get that.
I would like to have the questions come up to the podium, please.
She's seconding, I'm gonna say.
Thank you.
Okay, since you insist, John, I wasn't going to, but I have a few questions about the bond issue also. I feel sorry for you about your class size, because we never had that. But anyway, I have some concerns about the class sizes in the high school, where I believe there are too many students in the chemistry lab, but that was struck down, taking care of that. But you're putting air conditioning in the auditorium.
The chemistry lab was just change of furniture. It was not.
It looked like quite a bit of money.
Structure.
Like that. Okay.
It's furniture.
Redoing the whole chemistry lab.
It's furniture.
It's furniture.
Will it be enlarged so that more students will be? That was shot down though, wasn't it?
No. Who's teaching?
Okay, and I'm also concerned about the air conditioner in the old junior high. I remember when Suffolk agreed to rent the old junior high, and it was between Sayville and Patchogue, and we were almost at the point, I believe, that we wouldn't have gotten our state aid for the $7 million.
Now you were asking?
I'm asking you.
You're asking if we got the state aid for $7
Well,
million?
no, my concern is you're going to put in $1 million air conditioner, and we're not even sure if we're going to have somebody there. And I thought the $1 million could be spent more on educational things than,
$1 million, that would be a bond referendum.
I understand.
I don't think you bond.
So I'm assuming then that you're renting it to an educational.
I don't know.
Wouldn't it have to be if you were spending the money to rent that building?
Yes. We don't know who the possible tenant is.
Okay.
So.
I went, and I was on the third floor of that building, but I didn't tell you when. And also,
we're not going to guess. So
I have a few concerns about the turf field.
Okay.
Watching the news a few weeks ago, there was a coach for the girls' national soccer team who is now kind of contributing the turf fields for the girls getting cancer, and especially the Goldies. I think there were 3 or 4 schools. I think that has to be considered before we consider putting in a surf field, especially since it's going to be our soccer players on it. And also, it was interesting, I was watching a football game with my husband, barely watching, but there was a instant replay, and you could see the players hitting the field and the little black things rising. Our kids are going to be breathing that. So that's my concern.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
In anticipation of next month's Veterans Exemption, where can I find information on that? I've tried the district website. There's really not a whole lot of information on what it entails, how many veterans we have.
I think if you just go to...
I've Googled it, I've tried all sorts
Real
of different
property tax
avenues.
law, I think it's 458. Hold on. I think I have myself in my coat pocket. Why I have it in my coat pocket, I couldn't tell you why I have it in my coat pocket.
Mr. Jones, it's on the notice that's on our website.
Okay, it's on the
There is a
notice
notice,
on the website.
and it's right up, oh, there it is. It's right up there on the website.
Okay, when I go to your website, there's like 10,000 different
Well, this is right on the main page, it's
things.
a clicker right there.
I find your website a little,
Detroit.
I'm not the most technical person, but,
This is the very front page, click right on.
okay.
You know what, I looked in Google, I Googled it, real property tax, veterans exemption, school boards, and came to a couple of
Because I put in
different sites.
Sayville veterans exemption, I've
Oh, school.
tried to
School.
put in a bunch of different things.
School.
Couldn't find it.
But
Okay,
it's-
great.
Yeah, it's not limited to
It's
state.
not just limited to disabled,
So
it's
you wouldn't-
Right.
wouldn't-
Is it state or federal?
State,
State, okay.
state, although it should be federal, it is state.
Mhm. All right, thank you.
John, just a question to that. So then at that meeting, you're gonna have, I guess, what the impact is to say,
Yes.
will be cost.
Yep.
That meeting is January 8th at 7
January 8th.
o'clock here.
Correct.
Okay, so, and that's where you'll get.
I knew that part, I just wanted to get some background information.
If we break for 5 minutes, I'll pull my notes out of my coat.
Thank you.
Any other community input? Okay, thank you, community. Appreciate your input. All those in favor? Motion carried. The recommended action finance, I'm gonna go 8-1 to 8-8 under the new business, personnel 9-1 to 9-6, and new business other. I'm gonna do it all. Everybody's okay with that?
Okay. Mr. Branscombe, do you want to just?
Hold up.
8-1 to 8-8, I'm
No,
sorry.
I'm going to, I'll do 8-1 to 8-9.
Okay.
Any discussion?
No, I think everything is fine.
All those in favor? Opposed? Same, motion carried. I need 9-1 to 9-6. Motion. Call it, Mr. Cooley. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? New business other, 10-1 to 10-3. I need a motion. Okay, Mr. Kohler. Discussion?
Just one question, the parents' bill of rights. What's actually the purpose?
But one of the big things that I get from it is that what the state does with the student data. You know, that it isn't just in and out. Things that it reassures people that we're currently practicing.
This is a throttle back from the Bloom type so it's a pullback.
Exactly.
So it's a pullback from in Bloom that we don't have to share our data with in Bloom, and they can share with whoever they want, which is a great idea, so. Right, Chief. All right, got a first, I got a second, right? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Before we close, we're going to go to the executive session for 10 minutes. Before we close tonight, I wish everybody a happy holiday and a happy New Year. Have a great holiday. I'd say Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, and we'll see you. Kwanzaa.
Isn't Hanukkah begun, I think?
Yeah, I think it's
Today was the first
Any
day,
motion to go
right?
to executive session to pick the personnel and contract. We're going to executive session again. Everybody have a great holiday. We're going to take a 5-minute break. I got to go.